Hello and welcome to Handmade by Sally Woda's YouTube channel. Today I'm going to show you how to make the hair for my Puffington toys and show you a technique that I use to ensure that the strands of the pom-pom do not pull out. Before we get started, I wanted to show off some of the materials you'll need to complete this project. For the body of this Puffington, I used Karen 1 pound yarn in their color Robin's Egg. If you're just making this project for a friend or family member, you might feel like an entire bowl of 1 pound yarn isn't necessary. And if you feel that way, you can also use Red Heart Super Saver yarn in their color Aruba Sea. But I'm not going to be demonstrating how to make the body of the Puffington. For that, you'll have to buy the pattern from my Etsy shop at handmadebysallywoda at etsy.com. Today I'm demonstrating how to make the hair, and the hair for this guy is made out of Red Heart Super Saver yarn in their color Light Periwinkle. The other materials for this project include a hot glue gun. Now this glue gun came with 10 extra glue sticks, and that is more than enough to complete this project for any size of the doll that you make. If you run out, you can purchase additional glue at your local craft store, or even some Walmarts that have them in their craft sections. While in use, this gun is very dangerous when plugged in. Please keep it away from children and pets. Also, you might want to employ a drip catching device because this thing does drip hot glue that can stick to surfaces. I'm using this coaster I made, but a spare scrap of paper would be just fine. The process we're going to be following today to make this hair for the Puffington is a lot like the process you use to make a regular pom-pom. But since we're going to be using the hot glue gun, and for this size Puffington, I'm going to be wrapping my yarn around a modified 20-ounce drink bottle. I just cut the top off and removed the label to make it easier to use for my purposes. The first thing I'm going to make is a strand of yarn that is about a foot yarn and set aside for later. That will be used to wrap around the strands that make up the pom-pom. Set that aside. And now we're going to start wrapping the yarn around the middle part of this drink bottle. So let's do that right now. We're going to count off 20 rounds of yarn. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Sorry. The yarn is catching on a knot. Yay. Okay. 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. Geez, when you want it to go right. I'm going to move this yarn over here because I think that'll make it happen a little easier. So, okay, we have about 20 strands of yarn wrapped around it now. It's not necessary to be exact count, but you do want about 20 rounds. So now we're going to be using our hot glue gun to make a strip of glue across this strand cluster. And now we're going to wrap 20 more strands of yarn, making sure that each strand catches onto that glue strand. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Now we have 40 strands for this pom-pom, and we want to sort of keep track of how many strands that we have so that we can be able to duplicate it later. So I found that counting them in groups of 20 was the best method, but if you want to count it differently, that's okay too. Just this way just worked for me, but you find a way that works for you. So now we're going to be applying another strip of the hot glue gun very carefully. And we're going to be wrapping another 20 rounds around it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Now, if you were making a regular pom-pom, you would be putting a strip across here of the hot glue, and then on the other side of the yarn, you would also be adding another strip of the hot glue. So, but we're not making a regular pom-pom, we're making the hair for the Puffington. So for this size, we want about 100 strands, and right now we have about, I'm gonna say 60. So we want to do this a couple more times to make their hair nice and full. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So now we have 60. No, now we have 80. You see how easy it is to lose track of things? That's why when you're explaining this, it gets hard to keep count. So we want to make 20 more strands and add another strip of the glue. Now it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oops, a little knot. That stinks. Sorry about this, guys. Knots happen. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. So now we have 100 strands of yarn, or about 100 strands of yarn. If you're just making one version of this, then, and not making a mass production, you don't really need an accurate count, but if you are making it in mass production, it is nice to have an accurate count so you can duplicate it. So now, since we pretty much used up that whole strip of glue on those 20 strands, we're going to apply just another little strip of glue. And then we're going to take that spare yarn and we're going to glue it on there. Now, if you notice that it's accumulating in one spot, I just use my needle to sort of spread it around and make sure that it catches onto each side. Like that. It won't take that long for the glue to set. Oh, that's another thing. Your needle will get covered with glue no matter what you do. If you do what I just did, or if you wait and use it at the end, it will get covered with glue. But if you use one of these metal yarn needles, then it easily comes off. So it'll be setting very quickly. And now we're just going to cut this end from the rest of the yarn in the skein, and we're going to be pulling this off of the bottle. And you'll see we have this big hole in the middle. And we're going to be wrapping that straggler yarn, the yarn we cut off at the beginning, around that middle. We're going to be pulling it very tight. Don't you love it when things go wrong and you're showing them how to do it right for people? Anyway. Yeah, the glue does dry white, but we're not going to be able to see it once it's in the hair. So don't freak out about that. Okay, so now it's nice and tight. And when you're making a regular pom-pom and you use the hot glue technique, I said that you would put another strip of the hot glue on this side, but you would also tie this straggler around both sections of the yarn and then cut through those sides of it. But since we're making the hair, what we're going to be doing is just cutting into the middle of this hole and just snapping the bundle in half. And there we have it. Now for the hair, you'll notice that there's this big spot in the middle where the glue strip was. When I apply it onto the head, I put it on to make that strip into the center and do it from like the top around. There, it's not noticeable. Now for applying this to the Puffington's head, I will usually, eh, the light isn't really right. The brightness of the colors is off. And that's really nice too. Well, this is a free video demonstration. So, uh, for this size Puffington, I did the increase rounds for the beginning of the head out from round 1 to round 4. After round 4, you'd start the work even rows for this one, and you want to just sort of stop it right before you start working the work even rows and put in your little stitch marker to hold that yarn in place. You don't have to cut off the yarn from the skein to do this. You can and then just restart that, but I found it wasn't really necessary. It didn't create that big of a problem to me. Then again, I'm advanced at doing this. So for somebody else uh, new at this, might be a little difficult. But all right, so we have our pom-pom. I'm just making a new long strand because I noticed that that straggler was really short and that it wouldn't sew in due to sew in anything. This is what I was talking about before about your needle getting covered with glue regardless of if you turn it over, and it being it's going to be very difficult because you are going through that strip of glue. But now we're just going to be applying it and sewing it in. Thick, luscious hair. I'm just sewing it in until it's secure and we're comfortable with it. It is tough to go through that strip of glue, but when in doubt, I push it against my table. Now, once it's nice and tight, I'd actually put this around a bit more, but to make this video that's already long a little shorter, I'm just gonna cut to the end. And since we didn't wait until we made the rest of the body to apply the hair, now we can just make a couple of secure knots in this side. And when we stuff the body with our stuffing, nobody's going to see this part of it. And it's nice and on there. And it's not pulling out. You can notice that. It's awesome. When we're done making the rest of the body and applying the face, you can give it a bit of a nice haircut. Make it a little shorter, a bit more puffier. The Puffingtons. And that is my demonstration for how to make hair that won't fall out of a pom-pom. Now, if you're making one of the larger sizes, For the medium size, I would use a 1 liter bottle, drink bottle, and wrap it around, I'd say about 100 to 120 times. Then if you're going to be doing the large size of the Puffington, I would use a 2 liter bottle, and I would use one that is designed in this manner that's nice and straight, rather than in this manner, which has that hourglass figure in the middle, just because it would be easier to use. And then you just be wrapping it around the middle this size. If you use this size, this side of it, it tends to catch on the lid part. So there you go. That's my other note for it. I hope you guys had fun. I hope you guys are doing well. And with that, I'll say happy crafting. See you next time.